stuck with money usually comes from living without enough breathing room to make progress, never having enough quiet to make progress. Every time there's a little bit of breathing room, something shows up. A bill, a repair, an expense that sends everything right back to zero. And after a while, that constant cycle will tend to wear on you. You start to believe this is just how life works and that you don't really have a say in it. That was my reality for a long time. It felt like running on a freaking hamster wheel. Working, paying bills, trying to do the right things, but never gaining any traction. The problem was simple and frustrating. I had no type of buffer, no protection in place for life. No buffer, no margin. What finally changed my finances was a clear decision to protect myself. The first $1,500 I saved made me steady, and steady people make better decisions. If you feel like you're doing everything that you are supposed to do and still can't get ahead, this is likely the piece that's been missing. Money problems rarely announce themselves in advance. They show up on regular days in the middle of regular weeks when you were just trying to live your regular life. A tire goes flat, a medical bill arrives, something breaks in the house. None of that is unusual. What makes it hard is facing those moments with nothing set aside. For a long time, I thought saving was something you did once life kind of settled down. Things stopped moving so fast. When income was higher, when expenses were lower, when things felt calmer. The problem with that thinking is simple. Life doesn't calm down. There is always something competing for your money. And if saving stays at the bottom of the list, it never happens. Not having any savings affects how you move through life. You hesitate, you worry, you make short-term decisions just to get through the moment. Even when your spending plan makes sense on paper, the lack of a cushion keeps everything fragile. Once I understood that I needed a starting buffer, things changed. That first layer of protection created space, and space is what allows progress to finally stick. Deciding to protect you first. Nothing changes until you decide that protecting yourself financially is no longer optional. For years, I treated savings like something I would get to if there was money left over. The problem with that approach is there is almost never anything left over. Life will always find a way to use every dollar that you don't assign a purpose to. When I decided that my protection mattered, the order of my money changed. Saving stopped being an afterthought and became a priority. What it meant was that I chose to fund my stability before funding my wants. That one thing reduced my stress more than any budget tweak ever did because it gave my money a clear job. I stopped asking whether I could afford something and started asking whether it deserved to come before my own security. Most things didn't. This also changed how I reacted when something popped up. When something popped up, I didn't immediately feel backed into some corner. I wasn't scrambling or second guessing every choice. Knowing I was building protection made it easier to say no to things that didn't matter and yes to what actually moved me forward. If you're waiting to save until things calm down, here is the truth. They won't. Bills will keep coming. Life will keep happening. Protection has to be built in the middle of real life. This is about choosing yourself now, not someday in the future. The first $500 in 30 days. The first target is $500 and the timeline is 30 days because it forces some action. A short window creates focus. It makes you pay attention to where your money is actually going. When I went after that first $500, I just cut subscriptions. I ate at home instead of eating out. I canceled services that I wasn't really using. I opted out of renewals and I negotiated a few bills. None of that was permanent. The point was a redirection of that money into my own pocket. I questioned whether it even mattered. What is $500 gonna do? What was it really gonna change? I had moments where I thought, why am I doing this? It was my habits pushing back on me. When the $500 was finally there, I proved to myself that I could do something that I thought was a bit hard. Life just kept going and I had money set aside that hadn't existed there before. That win mattered more than the number itself. Repeating the process to reach $1,500. After the first $500 is in place, the mistake is thinking that you're done. You're not. You're just getting started. What works once needs to be repeated, not reinvented. The same approach that got the first win gets run again. The second round feels different. There's already money sitting there, so the urgency isn't as sharp. At the same time, life is still happening. That middle stretch is where people usually will slow down or get distracted. For me, it wasn't as easy as the first push. I had to stay focused and remind myself why I started instead of letting comfort kind of creep back in. I got some money. Why do I need to keep doing this? By the time I went after the third $500, the rhythm was there. I wasn't questioning every move. I knew what needed to be done and I did it. Each deposit wasn't just adding dollars, it was removing fear. Having money already set aside changed how I handled everyday life. I stopped dreading the freaking mailbox. I didn't tense up when something unexpected came up. Instead of asking what if, I could deal with what was actually in front of me. That's when it became clear that this was working for me. Not because the number was impressive, it wasn't, it was just $1,500, but because my mind finally had room to focus on something other than just being in survival mode. Adjusting the timeline without quitting. The 90-day timeline is a target. Real life doesn't always cooperate, and pretending it should is how people quit. There were moments during this process when I had to slow down. The second 500 didn't move as cleanly as the first or the third. And instead of throwing the whole plan out, I adjusted. I paused for a week or two and then I picked back up. And that's an important choice. Slowing down is not the same thing as stopping. Too many people confuse the two. They miss a goal or hit resistance and decide this plan doesn't work for me. Starting with whatever amount you have is not settling either. It's being realistic. Having something saved will always beat having nothing saved. Your consistency is gonna beat speed every time. It's the tortoise and the hare. You don't win by rushing and burning out. You win by showing up, even when the pace changes. That's how this becomes part of your life instead of another failed attempt. Gosh, hadn't we all had those and we've had enough of them? Letting the money sit and do its job. Once the money is there, the real test starts then. Not building it, but leaving it alone. That was harder than I expected. I was used to saving something and then pulling from it as soon as life felt inconvenient for me. This time had to be different. That money had one job and it wasn't comfort or convenience. At first, every little expense felt like a reason to touch it. It did. Something would come up and I think I could just use this money over here. This money wasn't for my wants. It was for real life problems that couldn't be avoided. Knowing the buffer was there changed how I thought and how I moved. I wasn't on edge. I could plan without hesitation. Fear stopped driving every single decision. The difference between convenient spending and a true emergency became obvious. And you ask one simple question, is this a need or a want? The answer tells you everything. When the money stays put, it does its job. It gives you space. And space is what keeps small problems from turning into financial disasters. Real talk. I believed for a long time that I didn't have enough money to save. And that belief felt reasonable, right? Because things were always so tight. But here's what I learned. Every dollar I earned had a job, except for protecting me. If you never build this buffer, the same problems just keep repeating themselves. You stay one surprise away from debt. You keep borrowing from the future to survive the present. That cycle doesn't end on its own. It just keeps resetting month after month, year after year. And eventually it wears you down. Credit cards become the backup plan. Stress becomes the norm. You start telling yourself you'll deal with it later, but later keeps getting pushed back. Personal responsibility means deciding that your stability, it matters enough to plan for it. Protecting yourself financially is not something you wait to feel ready for. It's something you start because you're tired of feeling vulnerable. Momentum money is about building the first layer of protection. It starts with saving $500 in about 30 days, then repeating that same process until you reach $1,500. 90 days is a solid goal, but the real priority is starting where you are and just staying consistent. This money comes before investing, before aggressive debt payoff, and before lifestyle upgrades. Just like you don't build walls of a house without a foundation, You don't build financial momentum without protection underneath it. The point to remember is simple. Protecting yourself changes everything. And the sooner that you start, the sooner your money starts working with you instead of against you. If this conversation hit home, you are in the right place. Subscribe to the channel so you can keep learning how to build a money system that works in real life, not just on paper or in spreadsheet form, but doesn't actually pan out day to day. Share this with someone who feels like they're doing everything right, but still can't get ahead. Sometimes the right message at the right time is enough to change someone's direction. If you want help putting this into action, download the free starter guide link below. It walks you through the first steps in a simple, grounded way so you're not guessing or overthinking. You don't need more complexity, you need a plan that you can actually follow. It's about being prepared, and preparation is what puts you back in control. This is how you protect yourself and start moving forward with confidence. This is your money era, and we'll keep building from here.